But how can you do that? We can, at the very same time, the people on the street, they, as you said, they went for a Gallup, survey, and people on the street don't like Americans. But this has changed in the past like few years. Before that, if you go back like 8 years or plus minus, it was like people used to like Americans. Americans were like anything over there. They were like, still they like you. But the point is the policies. But now it is another change. Now you have come up with drone. There's a drone attacks, right? Drone attacks, okay, fine, I understand. People understand, some of the people do understand that drone attacks are like precise target hitting equipment, whatever you say. But if you go for artillery fire, it's going to be more damaging.
Right.
But then again, why can't you trust us? There's a trust deficit, right? Why can't we do the things, and this is like we think, the majority of the people think that it's our war because we are facing it, and we want to get rid of this, and we are like united in all this thing. But why can't we do those things? Why do you have to come for drone attacks? That sends a wrong signal. So don't you?
No, I agree, and I think don't forget again that while the United States has certainly made a lot of mistakes, particularly in the Bush administration, because he ruined our image not just in Pakistan, actually all over the world, even Turkey, which is a NATO ally. We have very, very little support. But I think what has to happen is that the United States military and the Pakistani military have to build up trust. There is concern on the part of some people in the United States that the government doesn't have the military completely under control. The military and ISI are not completely under civilian control. And so therefore, if we were to give this technology away, it might end up in the wrong hands. And I think based upon Admiral Mullen's visits with General Kayani, we can get over that. But I think that's one of the the reasons.
How can you get over that?
Well, I think what we can do is that again, we have to, as we in the United States would say, the proof is in the pudding. The people have to show, because again, there was a concern and there was a perception that the ISI particularly was aiding the Taliban in Afghanistan and preventing the United States and its NATO allies from achieving its objectives. But now that I think that people of Pakistan have realized that it's not just Afghanistan that's threatened, they're also threatened, and you're beginning to see them take action, I think that will go a long way toward dispelling the perception. But I think it's important to keep that in mind, because that is a factor. There is this perception. You see it in your own media about what's going on.
I actually think the way to do this is to move beyond just the public statements, and certainly we've seen a lot of public statements from nearly every U.S. official over the past week. What is really needed is a more subtle approach, a more quiet approach perhaps, of cooperation between our different agencies, and quietly talking about how do we see the threats in a common way, how do we see them differently, and can we work to get on the same page. About the drone attacks, and this is my view, is that this is a weapon of last resort, absolute weapon of last resort, and yes, it would be better if the Pakistanis were leading this fight. But I want to go back to that point of governance, because I think it's really important that with these militants and some of the things that are said against the Pakistani state by some of these extremist groups, if there were a way to actually help the institutions of law and order, of the judiciary, to actually help function. I don't think it's an immediate answer, because there certainly seems to be some very immediate security threats, but helping build institutions, helping Pakistanis do this, that actually say when somebody actually maligns the Pakistani state and says things that are against Pakistan's democracy and the elections, for instance, that were held last February, when they criticize this, when Pakistani citizens are, we shouldn't be taking them out with a drone strike. That's not the immediate answer, but there should be some sort of recourse to actually bring some of these outlier views, and it's our view, I think, on this trip, that a lot of the statements by the more extreme groups are really on the margins of Pakistani society. That the Pakistani people are very decent, and they want much of the same things that we want in our own communities in America.
We are at the same pitch, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. But you need the officials to have more intensive, rather than public statements and things like this. And I think Larry agrees with this. It's the more focused, quiet work that's done, you know, not in public, but in, behind the walls.
Yeah, and you know, every day we get up, we read the papers here. We see all these Americans quoted. You know, Secretary Clinton, General Petraeus, Secretary Gates, Ambassador Holbrooke. And I think that undermines, you know, what we're trying to accomplish. And one of the messages we got from everybody, let's have quiet diplomacy. Let's talk, let's be frank, let's, you know, and if the Pakistani military really feels that they can control the drones and this technology, we'll say that, but let's not talk about it in the...
How can, we'll come back to that thing again, you know, the trust deficit, you know. How can we like overcome the trust deficit thing? We'll take a break and then we'll come back.
Okay.